What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Michael Gallagher to walk you through today's 9-game slate in the association. Big Monday slate. Mike, you're back to writing big matchups days. Great to talk to you today. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. Yeah, you call me Michael Gallagher. Feeling pretty formal today.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. There's reasoning
for sure. But yeah, doing good. Pretty big slate this week, man. This week's always hard. Thanksgiving we're off, but they always jam this slate. So, but yeah, I'm excited for this one today.
Yeah, big week of matchups for you, Mike. Unfortunately, no mid-size slates this week for you to get a break. But Friday is only a 10-gamer instead of a 15-gamer that it usually has been in years past. Thank you, NBA Emirates Cup overlords. All right, some housekeeping notes on this week of thankfulness and gratefulness on Thanksgiving. First and foremost, show schedule stuff. There will be no show on Thursday. There's no NBA games on Thursday, so enjoy the holiday. With your family or without your family, ordering Chinese food like Adam Levitan. If on Friday also, because there are afternoon games, we're not going to do the show on Friday as well. We need to put our attention towards our premium resources on the projection side of things, on the prop side of things. So there will be no show on Friday. So we will just do shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and then we'll be back at it the following Monday with our normal schedule time. In addition, also, there's going to be a new member joining the host ranks of this show starting tomorrow. Michael Lockey. That's where the Michael came from. I was having Michael in my head introducing him. He will be hosting the show with Mike Gallagher tomorrow on Tuesday. We're going to integrate Michael into the mix here. You'll see him once or twice a week over the course of the season as we continue to kind of introduce him to the audience and get him into the mix. We're really excited to have him on board. He's got a career built on kind of solving EV games, poker, underdog dailies, daily fantasy, sports betting, all that stuff. So, and he's got a lot of content hosting experience as well. So Michael Lockey will be joining us tomorrow to host in my place. As you may have noticed, on Fridays, we've been having Adam Levitan host. We've been trying to find another host to be able to help out so I can stay in the projections a little bit more with these markets getting tighter, with the game sizes being large and whatnot. So you will see a little bit less of me going forward on these shows. I'll still be on the premium shows fairly consistently, but all in the efforts of trying to keep the projections in the best place possible. And Michael's going to be a great host for the show going forward. It's only going to be once or twice a week. I'll be on another once or twice a week. We'll introduce Mark Dankenbring into the mix as well on the show. But you'll always have Mike Gallagher because we can't do the injury show without Mike Gallagher. Mike Gallagher's got all the news and notes, injury information. So that's the housekeeping stuff. Let's get into the slate, Mike. Let's start with New Orleans in Indiana. On the New Orleans side, a bit of good news. CJ McCollum upgraded to probable, right adductor strain. Brandon Ingram downgraded doubtful, right calf soreness. Then DeJounte Murray was listed out, but Shams reported that intends to make his return on Wednesday. So things are trending more positively for the Pelicans. What do you expect to see tonight?
Yeah, Brandon Ingram downgrade as well. I thought he was going to get tagged after the game. Willie Green said that he was dealing with some bumps and bruises. We saw him miss that game that was back-to-back. Wasn't back-to-back related. Was an ankle in the game he missed. Gets a calf tag today. He has multiple injuries, according to Green. So it sounds like he's on the closer side to doubtful there. But as you mentioned, CJ McCollum should be back. He is probable. He is on the front end of this timeline. He was supposed to be out 2 to 3 weeks. He's on like just a little over 2 weeks. So on the optimistic side, definitely going to have a minutes cap on him for a groin issue there. So we'll see what happens. If Ingram can't go, I think they would start Brandon Boston in his place. And then you would think CJ McCollum moves back into the starting lineup over Elfrid Payton. But I wouldn't be shocked if Elfrid still started out there next to CJ or brought CJ off the bench to return or just, play without defense, play Javonte Green off the bench. But I think Javonte Green starts. So for now, one of the Brandons will be starting. Yves Missi also probable, so he should be back and starting. Trey Murphy, CJ, and then I think Javonte Green could start, but I could see Elfrid Payton starting. They seem to like that 2-point guard or additional point guard lineup there. So the minutes will get squeezed a little bit on the bench. Jordan Hawkins probably still on a bit of a minutes limit from his back injury, but probably playing like 23, 24, something like that overall. And then, Antonio Reeves, had the big birthday game. His minutes are getting cut. as well. And then we think that Daniel Tice is going to kind of go away with Yves Missi expected back.
Yeah, and I'd also note that DeJounte Murray coming back Wednesday, right? So, like, why not start Elfrid Payton now? You're going to start DeJounte Murray when he comes back. Also, CJ McCollum's first game back against an Indiana team that likes to play very fast. Why not help on the conditioning side of things by just having Elfrid Payton be the one kind of bringing the ball up the court and doing those things? I'm in agreement with you. I think Elfrid Payton probably starts here. I think some of the context around DeJounte's return, the matchup, the opponent, all kind of influence that. But that would be my guess as well. Okay, let's move to Indiana. They are on the second night of a back-to-back. We did get a filing for them. Johnny questionable. Tristan Newton questionable. Miles Turner questionable with right calf soreness. That's an interesting one to pop up. Out tags for Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Ben Shepherd, James Weissman, and Isaiah Jackson. What are your expectations for this Q tag from Miles Turner? We saw him get into early foul trouble last night, and then Moses Brown played really well off the bench in his short minutes.
Yeah, I'll talk about Moses in a second. But yeah, we saw Furphy hurt his ankle, and he kind of wanted to go in, but after the game, Rick Carlisle said he didn't like his body language as he was kind of laboring through that injury. So decent chance he could miss. Wouldn't be a huge deal. Could tighten up the rotation a little bit there. And then Miles Turner, as you mentioned, he was listed with this thing last week and was back pretty soon and got pretty close to full minutes before. As you mentioned, he picked up 2 quick fouls, which led to Moses Brown. I think he scored like their first 8 points or something last night. Was really, really good early. So, yeah, if he's out, if he's out, and it's probably just management from this old injury from last week. If he sits, it's probably Moses Brown starting. I think he did enough to warrant a starting job there. And then they would mix in some small ball, Obi Toppin, Jarris Walker. I don't think they would mix in some Enrique Freeman, but I think they'd be comfortable going small. Obviously, the Pelicans don't have a lot of like major imposing high usage stuff down there as well. So yeah, and then Quentin Jackson's kind of locked and loaded here. Ben Shepherd. They were annoyingly listing Ben Shepherd for questionable for like 3 games, and we were like, he has an oblique injury. That's like a 2 to 3 week injury, and now that's what he's at. So they're listing him out now. So expecting, we'll see. Turner's probably going, but he could definitely sit. But Quentin Jackson's got this job locked up for now. Ben Mathurin, Pascal Siakam, Halliburton not listed. That's a positive sign. Halliburton coming around a little bit here after we dogged him last week, and then the bench, Obi Toppin, Jarris. Furphy we'll see, and then TJ McConnell would overlap even more if Furphy can't play.
Yeah, I saw Aaron Bruschi, who's a long-time fantasy NBA guy, does great work, speculating that he's been like looking for buy low points on Tyrese Halliburton, and one of the things that he said was they have like 4 home games coming up in a row, and maybe the travel is hurting the back, and so like some of these like situations where they play at home, then they travel for 1 game, like that game might be like a little bit of a hard. There's been big home road splits between Halliburton. It was an interesting thesis. It was something that I thought about as well as he came along yesterday with a nice game, and has another solid matchup today without a lot of defense on the Pelicans side without Herb Jones and DeJounte Murray. Okay. Orlando side of things. Last thing I want to comment on Indiana. If they're without Furphy here, I mean, the wing depth is now Mathurin, Quentin Jackson, Jarris Walker, and that's it. So the minute ceiling for Benedict Mathurin remains really high, but Quentin Jackson as well, the minute ceiling will start to get up there, and you might see more of that overlap from McConnell and Halliburton in a matchup that they can get away with that pretty comfortably. Okay, Orlando and Charlotte on the Orlando side. Still no Paolo Banchero, right oblique injury remains out there. Questionable tags on Wendell Carter Jr. with the left foot plantar fasciitis, and Jalen Suggs with the left hamstring strain. Hamstrings are tricky. And I was surprised. Honestly, I was surprised to see Suggs with like no real big listing. Then I was surprised to see, they only went to questionable. I was kind of assuming that he wouldn't be able to play this game. But what are your notes here on Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this Wendell Carter Jr. questionable tag. They keep tagging him with a Q tag, and they shouldn't. Again, like, what are we doing here? So maybe this time he'll play, but not optimistic there. I think we've got to have. I mean, we've had this Q tag for a week now, so you think he'd have a pretty good chance to return. We're expecting a minutes limit. Still think Goga's going to start. Whether they start next to him could be maybe tied to Suggs. I think if Suggs did miss, it would probably still be Anthony Black, and Tristan Da Silva's been fine. He's been kind of holding down the fort as a 3-4 for them there. But yeah, as you mentioned, Suggs tweaked his hamstring, didn't get listed. I always say the Magic are that kid in class that finishes test first, and then they get a C+ on it. They didn't do great work on filing the injury report. So yeah, I mean, I kind of think he's sitting. Jamal Mosley's talked a lot about how he's a tough guy, played football, yada yada. But I mean, it's a hamstring. We talked about this all season that you don't mess around with hamstring. So I think they sit him out here. That would, as I mentioned, put Anthony Black in the starting lineup, and then condensed minutes. Garrett Harris will play a little bit more. We'll see if they bring in either Caleb Houston or Jet Howard would probably be the favorite there, but they would need some more handling. We know Franz Wagner has played a lot of point guard over the years, so he would benefit from a handling perspective as well. But yeah, I think that Suggs is going to miss this one.
Yeah, I'm feeling that way as well. If he does miss, they still have lots of depth here. Anthony Black's obviously the first name that you'd think of, but we've seen Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, sometimes Jet Howard. There's still like a lot of depth and a lot of names here that they could potentially move into the backup role, the primary backup role that Anthony Black has held. Who do you think would fill that role tonight?
I think it'd still be Cole. I talked about Franz being point guard, but it's still, I think Cole Anthony's been pretty bad, but I think they still want to have a kind of traditional point guard in there behind Anthony Black. So I would expect him to get in the rotation if Suggs can't play.
Yeah, that's my guess as well. Okay, Charlotte side of things, they're still without Miles Bridges with that right knee bone bruise, without Trey Mann with low back soreness, without Nick Richards and Mark Williams, so there was an update on them, and then they lost Grant Williams to an ACL tear. So before we get into the Grant Williams stuff, because we did have a question from At the Dynasty, Mark Williams and Nick Richards were assigned today. How long does an assignment normally last? Trying to gauge when they may see them back on the court. Any notes that you have for Nick Richards and Mark Williams? The reporting is very poor on Charlotte. We have to basically rely on these updates from their PR. But what would your expectations be for a potential timeline or for the return for the centers here?
Yeah, they're going to play with Greensboro, practice with them today. So that's usually a sign. It's usually like 1 to 2 weeks. But like you said, it's Mark Williams. This guy, you should never have high expectations for Mark Williams. So, yeah, like I said, maybe 1 to 2 weeks. I'd be pretty surprised if it's more than that, considering this injury wasn't very severe for him. And then Nick Richards isn't. Nick Richards should be okay, right? Like if they're sending him to practice now, he's probably like a week away, considering if he's going to go practice with the rib injury, you'd think he's pretty close to playing, assuming his conditioning is okay. So, yeah, I would say that, again, 1 to 2 weeks there. But, yeah, as you mentioned, Grant Williams is out for the season with an ACL tear. And then on top of these two bigs, they're getting pretty thin. So I think it's Tayshaun Salon's time here. He's been not playing a lot. I thought he'd be playing a little bit more. So I think he starts. Obviously, LaMelo coming off the 50 ball. Brandon Miller playing a bunch of minutes. Musa Diabate's got this thing locked down, played 31 minutes. He'll continue to start. And then Taj Gibson will mostly cover the stuff behind him here. But, yeah, really thin with Miles Bridges still dealing with that knee. Also to note, last week I said that Miles Bridges hurt his other knee. Turns out the Hornets filed that wrong. It was the same knee. I double-checked. It wasn't me, I promise. So, yeah, he's had this knee aggravation. He'll miss some time here. So, yeah, really thin at the 4-5 spot for the Hornets.
Yeah, tough matchup for the Hornets tonight. And then, I mean, you just see, like, 61 shots of the 100. 61% of the team's field goal attempts were from Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, including 17 of their 21 free throws. So, like, all the usage is condensing within these two guys. There's not a lot of other guys that can take usage. That's a difficult recipe against good defenses. Which Orlando has had a very good defense. Obviously, Jalen Suggs' presence has been a big part of that. So if he's out, maybe that hurts things. But, man, this is a tough way to live. And it's also a concerning way for me. I know LaMelo drafters have had a great start to the season, really exciting. He's crushing ADP. But, like, how many times can we have this guy go out there, play 40 minutes a night, take 35 shots? Like, I don't know how his body's going to hold up doing that. So this Charlotte team, it's getting thin, and the reliance they're putting on a few guys might make it get thinner over time. So I'm pretty nervous about where Charlotte's headed right now.
Yeah, and I'll add we're out of minutes. We gave Nick Smith Jr. like 6-7 minutes. We got Seth and Misic were kind of splitting that last rotation
Yeah.
spot. Not anymore. We got them both in there, so they're kind of like right at the end of where their rotation players are.
Yep. All right, let's move to Toronto and Detroit. On the Toronto side of things, no Emmanuel Quickly still, no Grady Dick, left calf strain, no Jacoby Walter. Coach's decision is what he's listed out for. It's an interesting listing. No Kelly Olynyk, no Bruce Brown, but he gets the return to competition reconditioning tag. So there's no questionable tags here on Toronto. They have reintegrated Scotty Barnes in, but now they lose Grady Dick. Who starts in his place tonight?
Yeah, so we saw a couple different lineup iterations in this game. We saw Ochak Baji start the game, and then it was Davion Mitchell in the second half. Now it's both. Grady Dick will miss this one. He hurt himself late in this game. Got rolled out pretty quick. Went to the locker room, like instant rule out, which is usually a bad sign that he pulled something. So he's slated to miss, I don't know, call it 1 to 2 weeks with a calf injury there. So yeah, the starting lineup for now should be Davion Mitchell, Ochak Baji, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, not listed with a tag. That's nice to see. And Jakob Poeltl, most notably Scotty Barnes, 34 minutes. We talked about this being a slow ramp up. Not that slow. He's almost full already here. We'll see if they handle him in a back-to-back differently, but we should expect him to play, mid-30s minutes coming off an eye injury, so you don't have the aggravation risk. If you've been watching, he's got the cool red, almost like the Quinn Snyders. He's got the red goggles going on there. But yeah, tough spot to be in a back-to-back, but they've got enough depth. Should mention, as you noted, Bruce Brown was practicing. I thought he may get a Q tag today, but he's still out, but he's getting closer.
Okay. On the Detroit side of things, Cade Cunningham listed doubtful. He missed last game. What are your expectations on the timeline for Cade Cunningham's return for those who are setting like weekly lineups and different things like that?
Yeah, just a kind of a bruising kind of a thing. So maybe the next one he could go out there. It doesn't sound bad. So I think he'll be out again. If you're setting weekly, I don't know how. If you're like 16 teams, maybe you run him out there. But if you're 10, just play somebody else. So yeah, it should be the same starting lineup here. The other noteworthy thing here was Asar Thompson didn't play in this game when he was available. We were waiting for him to sub in. We capped his minutes really, really hard, but not hard enough. So we'll see if he can get out there. You would think that they would find minutes for him. Wendell Moore's been playing pretty well for them, but you would think that Asar would eventually sneak in there. But then, yeah, it's going to be Malik Beasley starting. Jaden Ivey's role wasn't that big. He actually lost a little bit of ball handling to Marcus Sasser in this game, but he shot the ball enough, 16 shots in just 28 minutes. So the usage should be there for him in a matchup that's pretty good, even with Davion Mitchell expected to guard him.
Yeah, I'd also note that not only did Asar Thompson not get in terms of the regular rotation stuff, they had blowout in this game. You can see Cole Swider played 4 minutes, Alondas Williams played 4 minutes, and they didn't play him in that. And that to me is like, what are we even doing here? Why is he listed as available if you're not even going to try to get him up to speed with like a 4-minute stint at the end of the game just to like get his feet wet? So that was odd to me. I understand how you could make the conclusion that like, hey, he's not ready to be a part of the rotation. I get that. I'm very confused at him not playing any of the blowout. And so going forward, I think what's going to happen is we're eventually just going to be surprised when Asar Thompson plays, and we're probably going to end up having under projected it because we'll probably be incrementally over projecting until he just shows up in the rotation. But it's a weird thing given he was listed with the return to competition reconditioning to then not play him in blowout even when he's supposedly conditioned to play again. So I don't know what's going on there. Dallas and Atlanta. Dallas on the second night of a back-to-back here, still without Luka Doncic with that right wrist sprain, still without Dante Exum in his recovery from right wrist surgery. And Klay Thompson listed questionable today with left plantar fascia. What are your notes on Klay and his availability tonight?
Yeah, didn't get a note from Kidd. Not much of a history on this here, but lost a lot of minutes. Partly because Najee Marshall was fantastic in this game, so he. I don't know if he like officially played the end of the game, but he was in there in overtime, subbing in, subbing out, offense, defense, a bunch. So I don't know. It's pretty minor. It's Klay. He's older. I think that they could sit him out here. If he did sit, you're almost certainly getting Najee Marshall in the starting lineup there. But yeah, really don't have any information on that just yet. And then the other notes here were PJ Washington also playing a ton of minutes. And then Quentin Grimes also played pretty well in the first unit as well. He'll probably play a pretty good bit. So yeah, expecting the same starting lineup. Najee will play a ton. Gafford, Spencer Dinwiddie kind of iced Jaden Hardy, and then Maxi Kleber was like kind of snuck in there. So it'll probably be a little bit deeper in a back-to-back after overtime. But yeah, and we'll get obviously thinner. If Clay didn't go, you're probably bringing in Omax Prosper for some additional minutes as well.
And if Clay was unable to start, you think Najee the most likely candidate? Okay. Yeah. Dinwiddie played a lot for a guy who, 0 for 9 from 3. He ended up taking what was an attempted game winner at the end of regulation. I mean, it was like, it was a lot of Dinwiddie when he wasn't playing particularly that well. All right. Atlanta side of things, they just have their G Leaguers listed out here. So it's as healthy of an injury report as we've seen for Atlanta in quite some time. What are your notes on what we can expect for the Hawks?
Yeah, nothing really to add. Trey's still playing through that Achilles injury, but he shot the ball a pretty good bit. His drives are up a little bit, still handling a ton first in the NBA there. But not too much to add. I guess I'll pull the box score up here, and it's just the story is Ricochet keeps losing minutes. That's kind of the big thing. Is Hunter's just been kind of icing him, been playing really really well off the bench. Bogdan's minutes getting back to normal as well. So yeah, not too much to add. They're pretty healthy here.
Yeah, and as we had suggested before with Atlanta, is one of the possible outcomes for them getting healthier with Bogdanovic and Hunter was just more looking like an 8.5, 9-man rotation. That's kind of what happened in this game against Chicago. We did get some minutes at the end for Vic Krejci and Garrison Matthews, but essentially like this was kind of 8.5, 9 with Kobe Buffkin as the 9th man, just basically replacing Trey's minutes. Really condensed minutes. If Atlanta can stay healthy, I think that's what you're going to see kind of going forward. And Dyson Daniels' ceiling minutes just get hurt a little bit by having Bogdanovic back and having a capable guard there. Okay. Yep. Clippers in Boston. Clippers on the back end of a back-to-back. So is Boston. Clippers took care of business in a big way, blowing out Philadelphia last night. Still without Norm Powell, still without Kawhi Leonard, now without Mo Bamba on the second night of back-to-back. He's not going to play. We saw before that early in the season that was at times Kai Jones, at times it was just play smaller and kind of deal with it. Against Boston, you would think it's play smaller and kind of deal with it. What are your expectations on the Clippers tonight?
Yeah, that's my thought. I think Kai Jones won't play today. I think they'll just run it small, play Batum at the 5 spot. And then, how much could Zoo play? Didn't need to play him out last night. I think they will. We talked about this, the big games, they're willing to play Zubats upper 30s. I think that is kind of how it goes today. And then obviously the wings are going to be the same. No Norm Powell. They rolled him out for a couple games, but it didn't sound like he was close. Again, hamstring. It's usually something that requires a couple weeks. So he's probably missing this week. If you have a weekly lineup, I wouldn't be playing him there. And then, Jordan Miller, man. Yes, 23 minutes, a little bit garbage timey, but he's kind of run even with Terrence Mann for kind of some backup minutes. So he's firmly entrenched in this rotation. Kevin Porter Jr. also getting some overlap. We've talked about that. And then, we'll see if they did want to mix in some size. I think Kobe Brown may be ahead of Kai Jones right now. But, they'll just kind of – I think they might just run it a little bit tighter considering, no one got to 30 minutes last night or even close, 27 for Harden. I should mention, too, Harden's been playing better. Free throws are coming back. Driving's coming back, shooting well off drives. He's been, kind of getting in a good groove here. And one last note, the Celtics interior defense could get better, but it was really bad coming into this. We'll talk about why, which I'm sure all of you know why.
On the Boston side, second night of back-to-back for them. They squeak out a win at home against Minnesota yesterday afternoon. Al Horford and Luke Kornet listed doubtful here, but we get the surprise return, probable tag for Kristaps Porzingis, which – I honestly thought this was another 3 weeks away from getting this type of return from Kristaps. So very early, he had been working with the G League team a little bit. I wonder if this wasn't a back-to-back game, if we'd see it now, just because they have been shorthanded at the center spot on these back-to-backs because of Al Horford's inability to play through them. But yeah, we're going to see Kristaps Porzingis. How much? Who knows? What are your expectations there?
Yeah, so this is early, as you mentioned. Brad Stevens and Media Day or whatever it was, he had mentioned mid-December. Some of the beats had mentioned New Year's Day. So this is early, man. We beat Thanksgiving, we beat Hanukkah, we beat Christmas, we beat we're 3 holidays early here. So Kwanzaa, you name it. We missed all that. We're really early on the holiday season for Kristaps back there. So as you mentioned, was working out with the main red claws. Came back pretty quick. Shams had noted he's been, kind of rapid in his recovery. So he'll be back. And that's Brad Stevens thing. He said that they picture him coming off the bench at home to get an ovation. So pretty sure they're going to start someone. I'll get to that in a second. So we landed at 18 minutes for Kristaps. I'd be really shocked if it's like 24. And it might just be like a, one rotation, get him in, get him out, considering his injury history. And, they need him to be on the court late in this year. So, yeah, he'll be out there tonight. Again, off the bench, I would expect, for minutes that are going to be, upper teens, low 20s at most to me. And then, the next question is the center spot. It was flipped last night. We saw Al Horford play, and then Xavier Tillman iced Neemias Queta. That was a big surprise. After the game, Joe Mazzulla said that it was because they wanted to run a switch-heavier scheme with Tillman. They threw him out there. He said that before. So, we kind of split that. I think they would want to run a little switchy for some stuff. But with Zubats out there, probably not. So we kind of put Keita ahead in this spot overall. But, it's a split situation. That's kind of what we thought. We always thought it would be, is it a Cornet day? Is it a Keita day?
Yeah.
And now we're kind of back there as Tillman kind of – we call it zombieing. When you look like you're dead in the rotation, you're kind of back to life.
Yeah, a couple other notes on Kristaps. One, going to be like a really tough projection because he's going to be a good point per minute guy. So every minute is going to count from like a projection standpoint in terms of if you're looking compared to the props market. Two, sometimes when these guys come back and know they're only playing they're playing lighter minutes, they are just firing in those lighter minutes. So that's the other part of this that becomes a little bit challenging in terms of trying to project is like, is he going to have like his normal usage rate, or is he just going to blast off because he knows he's only out there for 18 minutes? And then the last thing you mentioned, that press conference about the idea of being home. I looked at their schedule. They do have 2 road games after this one. So I'm wondering if the schedule was different, if this wasn't the last home game for a week, if it wasn't the second night of a back-to-back, if we'd be seeing Kristaps at this point. So a couple, it's a difficult situation to parse through from a projection standpoint. Agree with you that I'd be surprised if we saw 24, 25, but if we saw 20, 21 and him taking 12 shots in that 20 to 20, that wouldn't surprise me. So it's kind of a tricky situation to project. Okay. Let's move to Portland and Memphis. On the Portland side, no DeAndre Ayton. He's listed doubtful. Donovan Clingan's out with a left knee sprain. Jeremy Grant questionable with an illness. He played through this questionable illness tag last game, so that's a little bit suspicious to me. Scoot Henderson questionable with a back strain. He missed the last game. Chris Murray questionable with a bruised sternum, and Matisse Thybulle remains out. So the center depth that we've talked about this team having is no longer without Ayton and Clingan. Robert Williams is a player that you're always concerned about, how much can he take on from a men's perspective. They're playing a Grizzlies team that likes to play on the bigger side of things. So what are your expectations for how Portland lines up tonight? And we can start at the center spot. Yeah,
so it should be Time Lord. This box on the screen, Time Lord didn't play in this game. He was rested on the back half of the back-to-back, the Houston game. Houston destroyed him the first game, and then the Blazers come back and really rebound with a nice win. So Time Lord should be starting, probably playing mid-20s minutes. And then if you look at the box score, you see 26 Clingan minutes, no Time Lord, and then 5 Duop Reith minutes. There's a lot of small ball. Denny Avdia playing some center. Chris Murray has been a center before. Murray not playing, maybe it's kind of weird that you think that Chris Murray not playing could affect Duop Reith minutes, but I think that's actually going to happen here. And then, Jeremy Grant, back-to-back Q tags, played through them both. Minutes were normal, so I think he's going to be fine. I don't know. It's kind of weird they would list him again. And then lastly, Scoot, different listing. He had a quad injury and now he's listed with a back injury. So not sure if it was, and it was contact to his leg. So very odd. Don't have more details besides the changing of the listing there. So if he did play, they would probably play even smaller. We know Delano Banton could play more 2-3 than 1-2 he's been playing recently there overall. But and then also should note Anthony Simons, was coming off a hand injury, played great. 37 minutes, really big bounce back in a really, really tough matchup. He was horrendous on Friday and then comes out and puts up a big game. So he could be playing a little bit more in this spot.
Yep. All right. The other thing that I'd note there is Time Lord is a guy offensively who really benefits from the ability to generate putbacks and the ability to be a roll man who gets lobs, right? So some of his offensive production, which in the second unit has been paired with Scoot Henderson, I don't know if you'll have the same level of success offensively in the starters with Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant. These guys aren't lob throwers. They're not really pick and roll players in that way. They're a lot of shoot first guys. So it's one thing I am interested to watch is if Robert Williams has been very, very good in his bench role, but the pairing with Scoot Henderson, I think, is kind of important for him in terms of being able to generate that offensive upside. I'm interested to see how that looks tonight. Okay, Memphis side of things. No Zach Edey, no Juju Jackson, no Vince Williams. John Morant listed questionable today. Is today the day we get the return of John Morant?
Yeah, he got the doubtful tag last time, so that's usually the Memphis protocol. You get the doubtful tag. That's a wink, wink. We're one game away, so expecting John Morant to be back earlier than expected. He was on crutches like a couple weeks ago from that hip thing. So yeah, expect him to be back and capped. I think we landed at 26 minutes. We know he had the mini tirade with the training staff capping his minutes. We thought for sure, about a month or 3 weeks ago, we thought like, oh my God, no way he's playing this back to back. And he played. So, but again, they'll cap him here. We think 26 minutes is where we're at with him. And then we think Scottie Pippen, you don't see Scottie Pippen's balling out in Chicago these days, talking about 20 years ago or so. But Scottie Pippen did it, goes for 30, 10 dimes, played awesome. And how much does he get in the point guard situation? We just gave him like all the non-John Morants, but like there's a chance he overlaps. He's been great. Should note too, he gave Simons hell when these two teams played earlier. So yeah, that's kind of something to watch there. How many minutes could he get? Because you're getting a squeeze here. Because we got Marcus Smart also not listed. So yeah, you've got Sutton. He's pretty good depth on the wings. So we still think Jalen Wells, who also had a career high in this game with 26, he's still going to start, I think. So it'll be John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson, and Brandon Clark starting. And then I would say locks on the bench would be Scotty, Santi Aldama, Jake LaRavia, probably still Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart to kind of cover it. And then we're talking like, how many minutes can these guys get? It's a bit of a squeeze because we only have 24 for Jalen Wells as a starter because we just got so many wings that we want to try to give minutes to.
Yep. You know who the last player, Mike, to have over 25 points, 8 assists, and shoot 80% from the floor in a Chicago in the United Center in a Chicago Bulls game?
I do.
Scottie Pippen's. Yeah. Did you also know that apparently Stacey King during the broadcast was like, "Yeah, I'm texting Scotty. He didn't even know that his son was playing in Chicago today. So too busy tweeting about crypto." All right, let's move to New York and Denver on the Knicks side of things. Let's see if playing in altitude the second time gets a little bit better. It did not go well the first time in Utah. They've got a questionable tag on Miles McBride. Tibbs had noted that he was close last game when he missed with that left knee issue. Karl Anthony Towns also listed questionable here with a left calf contusion. They're obviously thin in the front court without Mitchell Robinson, without Precious Achiuwa. This is not the matchup you want to be thin in the front court with. What are your expectations on these Q tags for McBride and Towns?
Yeah, you mentioned Deuce should be back. They've been listing him out with this knee injury. He had that, last 2 weekends ago. It was knee injury, illness, knee injury. Now he's got this knee thing. So this knee thing has been bothering him for like 2 weeks now. So a decent chance he's back. Probably not playing huge minutes here. But again, we'll be coming off the bench in his return. That should take him away minutes from Campaign, who played 31 minutes and most notably played over Mikal Bridges down the stretch in this game, even before it got out of hand. That's something that is alarming. Mikal Bridges has been quite bad. And like offensively, he was really bad. Defensively, he was better in this game. But man, we have a guy who didn't close, and we still have Mikal Bridges, I think, at like 37 minutes, just because he was playing so much more. And he's, Deuce is a bigger threat than Campaign is. So how much could that cut into Mikal Bridges, who's been just not good, man. Cam Johnson's been way better than him. Lastly, calf contusion should be good. Should note, though, this last time he had a knee contusion, that I was like, oh, he's good. They said he's fine. So I think he's going to play from a calf contusion. Looked good. Played 39 minutes the last game. So I think he's in. But if he wasn't, that would be Jericho Sims, who's played pretty well. He was great off the bench. 9 minutes plus 19. Almost got the Knicks back in this game overall. But yeah, I think Cat's going to play.
Yeah, I wonder, if Cat wasn't able to play, the minute ceiling on Jericho Sims could be unfortunately outrageous. The Knicks were comfortable with OG Anunoby on Jokic last year. They played them once after the Anunoby trade in the Garden, and the Knicks destroyed Denver in that game. I was there, remember it well. Jokic got poked in the eye. The crowd went nuts. I was tilting. But OG did a pretty good job on Jokic decently there, and if Cat was unable to go, I'm sure he'd have to do that some tonight, because I don't know if Jericho Sims can play the 38 minutes or whatever that Jokic is playing these days. Denver side, no Vlatko Konchar, no Aaron Gordon, no Deron Holmes. Peyton Watson gets a probable tag with the right adductor strain. What are your notes here for Denver?
Yeah, this is new on Watson. Listed with a strain. That's a bit of a concern there, so keeping an eye, but it is probable. So I would just be a little bit alert there. But yeah, Joker's just playing so much. 39 is return, 37 in a blowout game. Been just absolutely smashing. 110 touches, 67 front court touches, 10 post ups a game. He's just absolutely cooking right now. Other than that, everything's mostly status quo. Russell Westbrook, has kind of cut into Christian Brown some. We saw him a couple games ago close in the Dallas game. Oh yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. The backup center spot is pretty dicey. Some days it's DeAndre, some days it's Dario Saric, some days it's Zeke Naji. Mostly irrelevant because Joker's just playing so much right now.
Yeah, it's been wild. All the people that were very upset about Jokic winning like 3 MVPs, I think they're going to be really, really upset if we keep playing the season out this way. We're like a fifth of the way through the season, between a fifth and a fourth, where like Jokic has been clearly, like, I don't think anybody else is really close right now. It's kind of wild. All right, Brooklyn and Golden State. Brooklyn on the back end of a back-to-back here tonight. They had a late questionable tag. They had a weird day on the injury report in that game. Sacramento on the other side. We'll get to them in a second too. But Dennis Schroeder was a late Q tag, ended up missing the game. We know that Ben Simmons hasn't really been playing on back-to-backs. We know that they've been a little bit conscientious of Claxton at points on back-to-backs. They're getting a little bit shorthanded here. We don't know what the injury report is yet today. What are you expecting to see on it?
A lot going on here. Expecting Ben Simmons to miss this one and Dorian Finney-Smith to miss this one. Jordi Fernandez said as much after his post-game interview. And then, as you mentioned, Noah Clowney tweaked his ankle late in this game, had to get helped off the court. Think he's going to miss this one. The Nets made a call-up. They called up Derek Whitehead, who was out of the country. They were playing in Ontario there. So that's a pretty clear sign that, like, hey, we need reinforcements pretty bad. Derek Whitehead's actually been playing pretty well. We'll see if he can get some minutes here. Those guys are on the fence. Dennis Schroeder said that he's basically going to be game time decision, as you noted, 2 times in a row now, or I guess 2 of the last 3, whatever it is, that the Nets have a probable tag early in the day, then it gets downgraded to questionable, and they don't play. That happened to Cam Thomas. Talked about that as well. So, yeah, we're getting pretty light. If Schroeder can't play, then, and also can Claxton play? Claxton just came back from back injury. They're going to manage him. His minutes have been kind of so he's not a lock to play. I don't think they filed yet. I see people on our Slack talking about it. But yeah, I don't think they filed yet. But so a whole lot going on there. Just to kind of backtrack. So I think they would trust Cam if, like, everybody's out. I think they would start. Well, we'll say Claxton's in for now. So I think Tim Thomas would start at the point guard spot. I think they would actually bring in Jalen Wilson, who played pretty well off the bench for them. Zaire would get Dorian Finney-Smith's spot. Obviously, Cam Johnson would start again. And then Claxton should be in there. If Claxton can't go, should also note, Trendon Watford also came back recently from a hamstring injury, so he could be missing. So it's pretty unclear here. They did have Shake Milton for a pretty good amount of minutes there, but I think that, this is, like, again, the fact that they're calling up Derek Whitehead to travel from Canada to go to San Francisco is a pretty big sign that they've got concerns about their depth right now.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, we think they'd have Zaire, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, Jalen Wilson, Shake Milton, Keon Johnson,
where the
Tyrese Martin, Derek Whitehead. That's like the worst case scenario, right? That's 8.
Yeah.
But that could come into play. And especially it's like, I don't know what the Nets front office is thinking, right? In terms of like tanking and different things coming into the season, it was obviously like kind of front and center on their minds. They just won a game in Sacramento. They're going into Golden State. Like this is a spot that things could get weird tonight. Just be prepared.
Yeah, well, it's tough to talk through, but we'll have that injury report when we get on the show later.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, Watford could definitely miss this one. It's just like, okay, what's the rundown? Claxton is A, and then it's, I guess Clowney would be B, but we think he's going to miss, and then Watford, and then we're out. Daron Sharp's still hurt. Like their whole front court is
in terms of centers, in terms of front court.
You
don't need that as much against Golden State, but still, like just generally, it's a problem. All right, Golden State side. Jonathan Kuminga questionable with an illness. He was a late scratch last game because of the illness. D'Anthony Melton obviously out for the rest of the season with the left ACL tear. What are your notes on what we can expect for Golden State tonight?
Yeah, I started feeling sick just before the game, according to Steve Kerr. He had that late additional Q tag there, so yeah, tough to see what's happened with him there. But yeah.
So you're a game behind on the box score.
I'm game behind on the box score. Yep.
San Antonio.
Anyways. Yep. Oh, there you go. Wrong one. Yep. So he became ill. Sorry about that. Here. Yeah. So he was ill right before the game. Didn't miss this one. So yeah, I think he's going to be game time again. If he didn't play, it'll just be everyone playing. So there's really not too much to say. But his minutes are down bad.
Yep. Okay, last game of the slate to talk through, OKC and Sacramento on the OKC side of things. No Alex Caruso, right hip strain. Still no Chet Holmgren, obviously. Isaiah Joe upgraded to questionable with that left calf contusion. And then Isaiah Hartenstein, they've had some time off here. Hartenstein played like 28 minutes off the bench in his return. What are your expectations? Because I think they haven't played in 4 days. So that's a lot of time off to potentially integrate. What are your expectations here for the Thunder?
Yeah, they've been off since Wednesday, so they've had a lot of time off here. I think Hartenstein starts. We talked about when you want to use him. He routinely came off the bench in the preseason, subbing in with Alex Caruso quite a bit. But I think if not now, when you want to start him against Domantas Sabonis, so I'd expect him to start. As you mentioned, 29 minutes his return. Great stat line: 13, 14, 3 dimes, 4 blocks, 15 paint touches, which currently leads the league in per game stats. Usually, I think number 12 is Zubats right behind him. But so expecting him to start, but not sure. They definitely could play small again and start the same group they've been starting. Isaiah Joe could also move back in the starting lineup. They were never really concerned about Isaiah Joe, so I think that he should be back. Dagnall said that he almost put him back in the game the day he suffered it, and he's missed some time since. So I think Isaiah Joe's back. You mentioned Caruso listed out. This hip thing is not going away. Being out after all this time off is a little bit of a concern there. But I don't know. I think they're just managing him. They never up his minutes. But so that should get, I think, Dylan Jones in the mix. We saw Dylan Jones' minutes come back without Caruso. But they may not. They may not need to go there since you got Hartenstein back. So, starting lineup, like I said, probably Isaiah Hartenstein, SGA, J-Dub, Lou Dort, and I think Isaiah Joe would be the favorite to start. And then you still got Kaysen, Aaron Wiggins. Should mention Ousmane Dieng also got hurt. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. And then, you still got AJ Mitchell, mentioned Dylan Jones. So they still got plenty of bodies.
Yep. Sacramento side, they're on the second night of back-to-back here. We saw the weird injury reporting yesterday with Malik Monk, who started the day listed out, then was doubtful, then was questionable. That almost always ends up being in. He was then ruled out shortly after being listed questionable. It was very strange. I think it's pretty clear that Malik Monk's going to be back tonight. But what are your expectations on what that means for the Kings?
Yeah, that should mean Kobe Jones, who we thought might get some minutes. He got talked up a bunch by Mike Brown 2 games ago, gets in there, gets rotation minutes there. So not surprising. He'll be going away with Malik Monk back. You got SGA on the other side. So you'd think they got to play Keon Ellis here a little bit. They've asked De'Aaron Fox to guard him a bunch. I don't know if they want to do that on a back-to-back, especially with Fox playing so well offensively. They also asked Keegan Murray to do that job too. Do you want to do that and then risk J-Dub having either old DeMar DeRozan or Kevin Huerter on him? I don't know. So I think Keon, obviously the starting lineup's the same. If I wasn't clear, it'll still be Fox, Huerter, Sabonis, Keegan, and I think I said everybody. That normal five that we've been seeing. And then the bench should be Malik Monk, expect him back, Keon, Trey Lyles, that's their core 8, and then we'll see if they mix in Kobe Jones. They're going to probably play smaller here, so I think Kobe Jones could be in there over their backup center is potentially the ninth man. But yeah, they ran the minutes up. DeMar DeRozan's been pretty poor returning from injury. Is the back still bothering him? I don't know, but he's shot the ball quite poorly the last 2 games. So yeah, a little bit concerned, and we'll see if he gets tagged. He's extremely durable, but back to back, you always got to be on the lookout for injury stuff.
Yeah, and he's been extremely durable throughout his whole career, but we get into the late 30s, things might change too, So, yeah, definitely watching for that. On the defensive note, they trusted Kevin Huerter a lot in this game defensively. He was getting early in the game a primary assignment a little bit on Cam Thomas, and then late in the game a primary assignment on Cam Johnson. I thought he did a really nice job on Cam Johnson, who just generally just shot the lights out. Last night we had an under on Cam Johnson, so I was paying very close attention. I thought Huerter did an awesome job on him. Now it's a different cover than an SGA or a J-Dub because those guys are drivers, and Cam Johnson is not as much of a downhill player. He's more of a trying to get to his spots. But I thought Huerter did a really good job. I thought he competed really well on that end. And obviously Keon Ellis has fallen in and out of favor all year long. So this would be a matchup to see his minutes kind of, in the firmly in the rotation because of the defensive responsibilities here. But it's been so inconsistent with Mike Brown's feelings on Keon that I don't know for sure. I thought Huerter did a reasonable enough job, and obviously Keegan's going to get the assignment on one of those guys. I'm kind of thinking they're going to have Keegan on SGA and Huerter on J-Dub to start, but we'll see.
That's my thought.
Okay. That'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. If you tuned in late, just a heads up on the scheduling this week. No shows on Thursday. There's no NBA games. Or Friday. There's afternoon games, and we need to have our guys on the content and the projection side for the premium stuff. So we're just going Tuesday and Wednesday the rest of this week. Grateful for you guys listening in and digesting our content on this big week. But 2 days off for us. We'll take them. We'll appreciate them. Tomorrow, you'll also be introduced to one of the new hosts that's going to be in the mix on this channel, Michael Lockey. We're very excited to add him into the mix. So you'll see Mike and Mike, a different version than the very, very once very, very popular radio version on ESPN, our own here at ETR. As always, if you're interested in joining us for the premium ride, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-NBA for more details on our premium product offerings on the prop side, on the DFS side of things. No sales on the NBA side. Those are going on the NFL side for Thanksgiving week. NBA side, we hold those sales till Christmas week. So if you are thinking about getting the best price, a few more weeks, we'll have a little bit of a better price for a short period of time on the DFS side of things, not on the prop side of things. Also, if you are just along for the free ride, that's cool too. And just consuming our free content, the best way to do so to support us is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. We cleared 5,000 subscribers. We're marching towards 6,000. Appreciate all your support there by hitting that subscribe button and paying us that way. You can also hit the bell and get notifications whenever we go live. You can also smash the like button and feed the algorithm, which helps feed our families and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. It's a big week of eating. The algorithm needs to eat too. Nom, 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 nom. I'll see you Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody.